There is a haunting truth about desire. We often mistake the pull of our own unconscious wounds for the gravity of love. Imagine standing before a mirror cracked down the middle, half of you lit with longing, the other half shadowed by fear. When you fall for the wrong person, you're not really falling for them, you're falling into the reflection of something buried deep inside yourself. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Nowhere is this more painfully true than in relationships. The wrong person enters like a dream figure, magnetic, consuming, and intoxicating. Yet what draws you is not their essence, but your own unhealed patterns projected outward. And so the tragedy unfolds. We chase intensity, mistaking it for intimacy, attraction, mistaking it for alignment, and drama, mistaking it for destiny. The greatest danger is not that we fall, it's that we awaken too late, realizing the person who set our soul on fire was only the flame of our own shadow. Welcome to the Psych Arc, where Jung's psychology becomes your compass and inner power becomes your destiny. If you're ready to master yourself, uncover hidden truths, and transform the way you love, subscribe and step into the circle. This is not just learning, it's awakening. At the heart of falling for the wrong person lies a Jungian trap: projection. Projection is the psyche's way of unloading the unseen parts of ourselves, our fears, desires, wounds, and archetypes. It is not conscious, it is not deliberate, and it is not random. When you feel inexplicably drawn to someone, when your heart races and your mind spins stories of destiny, it is often not them you are seeing at all. It is your own unconscious wearing their face. Consider the shadow. These are the repressed qualities we refuse to claim: anger, insecurity, neediness, vulnerability. Left unexamined, the shadow becomes magnetic. We are drawn to those who embody what we deny, hoping, unconsciously, to complete ourselves through them. This is why a person who destabilizes you can feel irresistible. Then there is the anima and animus, the inner feminine within men and the inner masculine within women. Jung taught that these inner figures shape our deepest attractions. We do not simply fall for a person, we fall for our psychic image of the other. When this inner figure is immature, wounded, or distorted, our external relationships mirror it. That's why someone can feel like your soulmate, when in truth they are the unfinished sketch of your inner archetype projected outward. And so the red flags begin to appear, signs that the intensity you feel is not true resonance, but projection. You think you are seeing them, but you are actually meeting yourself in disguise. This is the essence of falling for the wrong person, a union not between two whole individuals, but between one conscious self and their own unconscious longing, reflected back at them. In the coming exploration, we will reveal 9 psychological signs, subtle, profound, and deeply Jungian, that show when you are not truly in love, but entangled in the web of your own psyche. Each sign is both a warning and a mirror, pointing not only to the wrong partner, but to the hidden parts of yourself, asking to be seen. Sign 1. Intensity without clarity. There is a kind of love that feels like lightning, blinding, electric, impossible to ignore. And yet what follows lightning is not light, but darkness. When you feel overwhelmed by intensity without truly knowing the person before you, you're most likely staring into your own projection. Jung warned that the unconscious does not speak in logic, but in symbols. That intoxicating pull, that sense of inevitable destiny, is often not a signal of love. It is the voice of your own unintegrated self calling you through another. You are not seeing who they are. You are seeing what you crave, what you fear, what you lack. Healthy attraction carries warmth, curiosity, and clarity. Unhealthy projection burns hot but leaves you blind. If you find yourself consumed by passion yet unable to articulate why, if you are more addicted to the feeling than the person, this is not love. It is the unconscious hijacking your heart. Sign 2. They mirror your wounds more than they nurture your worth. One of the clearest Jungian red flags is this: the wrong person activates your wounds far more than they nurture your worth. The shadow seeks recognition. If you grew up feeling unseen, you may unconsciously be drawn to someone who withholds attention. If you carry abandonment wounds, you may be magnetized by someone emotionally unavailable. It feels like chemistry, but in truth, it is a repetition compulsion, the psyche recreating old pain in search of resolution. Jung explained that what we do not heal in ourselves returns through fate and relationships. The wrong person often feels familiar because they echo unfinished business from our past. But familiarity is not safety, and chemistry is not compatibility. The test is simple. Do you feel expanded in their presence, or do you feel diminished? A love that constantly reopens wounds is not love. It is your unconscious crying out to be healed. Sign 3. You confuse possession with passion. When Jung spoke of the anima and animus, he described them as inner figures that can possess us when unconscious. To be possessed is to lose your balance, your clarity, and your center, swept away by a tidal wave of emotion. If you feel like you are losing yourself in someone, abandoning friends, passions, or values, you are not in love, you are in possession. It feels like passion, but it is actually fusion, the annihilation of the self in service of an archetype. Real passion strengthens individuality. It ignites your own fire without extinguishing your autonomy. The wrong person, however, pulls you into a trance where you confuse obsession with devotion, dependency with intimacy. If you find yourself orbiting their moods, losing your identity, or fearing life without them, pause. This is not the call of love. It is the grip of the unconscious archetype, demanding your surrender.
Sign 4. You ignore red flags because the archetype feels too strong. When Jung described archetypes, he explained them as timeless patterns, ancient psychic imprints that live within all of us. They show up in myths as the lover, the warrior, the magician, the trickster. In love, these archetypes can be enchanting, almost godlike. The danger comes when you meet someone who embodies an archetype so vividly that you overlook reality. Perhaps they exude the confidence of the hero, the mystery of the enchantress, or the power of the ruler. Archetypal energy makes them feel larger than life, almost mythical. But archetypes are masks. To mistake the mask for the person is to fall for the image, not the human beneath. If you find yourself dismissing obvious red flags, lies, disrespect, inconsistency, because their archetype feels irresistible, you are not choosing love. You are bowing to an unconscious pattern. True intimacy begins when you strip away the archetypal projection and meet the flawed, real human being. The wrong person keeps you enthralled in the myth while starving you of truth. Sign 5. The relationship feels like a cycle you can't escape. There is a certain heaviness in the wrong relationship, a sense of déjà vu, as if you've been here before. That is because you have, inside your psyche. Jung taught that what remains unconscious repeats itself in our lives as fate. Unhealed patterns resurface in the form of relationships that replay the same story again and again. It may feel as though you are cursed, always drawn to the same type, the unavailable partner, the controlling one, the betrayer. But this is not a curse. It is the psyche insisting you confront what has long been ignored. The wrong person keeps you in loops. Arguments replay like a broken record. Emotional highs and lows cycle endlessly. You promise to leave, yet feel compelled to return. This is the hallmark of unconscious repetition, what Jung might call a complex taking over, locking you in a narrative until you learn its lesson. If you feel trapped in cycles with someone, fighting the same battles, enduring the same pain, understand you are not with your destiny. You are with your unfinished business. Sign 6. Your attraction feels more like addiction than connection. Healthy love is nourishing. It steadies you. The wrong love destabilizes you, leaving you craving another hit. This is because projection doesn't just create attraction, it creates obsession. When the unconscious floods a relationship, you become addicted not to the person, but to the feelings they trigger. You crave the chase, the validation, the drama. Like an addict, you endure suffering just to taste fleeting moments of euphoria. Jung warned that when the unconscious is ignored, it governs us with compulsion. Falling for the wrong person often feels exactly like this: compulsion masquerading as choice. You tell yourself you can't help who you love, but in truth, it is not love. It is the psyche binding you to its unresolved fragments. A simple test. When you are apart, do you feel grounded, or do you feel withdrawal, like an addict deprived of their substance? If distance leaves you anxious, restless, unable to breathe, it is not love. It is dependence disguised as passion. Sign 7. You lose your voice in the relationship. One of the most subtle yet devastating signs is silence, the loss of your authentic voice. When Jung spoke of individuation, he described it as the process of becoming whole, of integrating every part of yourself. But with the wrong person, individuation stalls. Instead of becoming more fully yourself, you become smaller. You swallow truths to avoid conflict. You mute your needs out of fear they will leave. You adjust, bend, and twist until you are unrecognizable, even to yourself. The unconscious reason is clear. When you fall for someone who echoes your wounds, your survival instinct tells you to please them at all costs, as though keeping them means keeping yourself safe. But the reality is the opposite. The more you silence your voice, the more you betray your own soul. Love should expand your authenticity, not erase it. The wrong person always costs you your voice. Sign 8. You confuse chaos with chemistry. There is a dangerous cultural myth that the best love is wild, unpredictable, storm-like. But storms do not nourish the soil, they uproot it. Many confuse the chaos of emotional highs and lows for passion. The fights that end in intoxicating reconciliations, the jealousy that masquerades as proof of love, the uncertainty that feels like thrill. This is not chemistry, it is volatility. Jung warned that the psyche seeks wholeness, not chaos. If a relationship feels like constant turbulence, it is often because your shadow and theirs are at war. Their insecurities trigger yours. Your projections collide with theirs. It feels magnetic because the unconscious thrives on conflict. It wants resolution. But resolution does not come by staying in chaos. True chemistry is not chaos. It is harmony. The wrong person leaves you addicted to the storm, mistaking destruction for depth. Sign 9. You sense it isn't right, but you can't let go. Perhaps the clearest sign of all, your intuition whispers, "This is not it." You know it in your bones, yet you stay. This is where Jung's concept of the unconscious binding becomes most powerful. Your rational mind knows you deserve better, but another part of you, older, deeper, wounded, clings to the familiar. You replay excuses. You bargain with hope. You tell yourself things will change. But underneath, there is a quiet voice that never lies. When you are with the wrong person, your soul knows. It aches. It whispers in the quiet moments, in the aftermath of fights, in the emptiness after fleeting highs. The longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes. To stay is to betray yourself. To leave is to step into individuation, the terrifying yet liberating act of choosing growth over illusion.
Recognition is only the beginning. To truly free yourself from falling for the wrong person, you must move from unconscious compulsion to conscious choice. Jung called this the path of individuation, the lifelong work of becoming whole. Here are the practical steps to begin that journey. 1. Turn projection into reflection. When you feel an overwhelming attraction, pause and ask, what part of me am I seeing in them? Write down the qualities you admire and the ones that disturb you. Then ask, do I embody these traits or do I deny them in myself? If you adore their confidence, perhaps it is your own unclaimed power. If you resent their selfishness, perhaps it mirrors your suppressed needs. By turning projection into reflection, you dissolve illusions. The wrong person loses their spell because you reclaim what you had given away. 2. Practice shadow work daily. Shadow work is the discipline of facing the parts of yourself you hide. Begin simply. Journal about the traits you judge most in others. The harsher your judgment, the more likely it is part of your shadow. Ask yourself, when have I acted like this? When have I wanted to? To own your shadow is to remove its power over you. When you do this, you will no longer need someone else to carry it for you. 3. Strengthen your inner anima or animus. The wrong person often appears because your inner masculine or feminine is wounded. A man whose inner feminine, anima, is wounded may seek salvation in a woman, clinging to her for emotional wholeness. A woman whose inner masculine is weak may fall for men who dominate, mistaking their power for her own. The task is to cultivate these qualities within. Men, learn to listen to your emotions, to nurture, to embrace vulnerability. Women, cultivate assertiveness, boundaries, and rational clarity. When your inner figures mature, you no longer seek wholeness in another. You approach love from fullness, not lack. 4. Break the cycle through conscious withdrawal. If you feel addicted to someone, treat it as you would any dependency. Name it. Set boundaries. Remove the stimulus. This may mean cutting off contact, refusing to romanticize memories, or replacing old rituals with new, healthier ones. The unconscious thrives on repetition. The only way to break the cycle is to interrupt it. It will feel like withdrawal, because it is, but every moment you endure without returning is a victory for your conscious will. 5. Reclaim your voice through radical honesty. The surest way to stop losing yourself is to speak truth, even when it risks loss. Tell the person what you need. Name what feels wrong. If you are silenced or punished for honesty, you have your answer. This is not love. Practice truth-telling not for them, but for yourself. Each time you honor your voice, you reweave the fabric of your soul. 6. Listen to the whisper of intuition. The psyche always speaks. It is we who refuse to listen. Begin training your intuition by paying attention to your body. Do you feel expansion or contraction around this person? Does your chest tighten or open? Your body is the language of the unconscious. Trust it. If it whispers that something is wrong, honor it before it has to scream. Practical application is not easy. It is the work of courage. But if you choose it, you move from being a prisoner of your unconscious to the author of your destiny. And in that choice, you stop falling for the wrong person and begin rising into your truest self. In the end, the greatest danger of falling for the wrong person is not heartbreak. It is self-forgetting. When you hand your unconscious over to another, you lose more than love. You lose the path of your own becoming. Carl Jung taught that love is not found by chasing what dazzles us, but by embracing what completes us within. The wrong person is never truly wrong. They are a messenger. They arrive to show us the unhealed wound, the unclaimed shadow, the forgotten archetype. They burn us not to destroy us, but to awaken us. And so the question is not, why did I love them? The question is, what did they reveal in me that I must now claim as my own? When you answer this, the spell breaks. You stop mistaking projection for destiny, chaos for chemistry, addiction for love. You return to yourself, whole, awake, unshakable. And only then can you meet another not from lack, but from fullness. Love begins not in the arms of another, but in the courage to face your own soul. If this truth resonates with you, don't walk alone. Join us. Subscribe to the Psyche Arc, share your reflections below, and become part of a community devoted to awakening, empowerment, and authentic love. Together, we do more than survive relationships. We transform them into the crucible of our becoming.